here. Thank you for all of you to be present. So I changed a little bit the title of the presentation. That was basically electrochromic materials for energy saving. I have had it here, the printed word, and also I have changed from electrochromic to protogenic because I will also talk about thermochromic materials. So that are some of the solutions that are available. Also to be included in this, what we call smart buildings. So I will give this, let's say, more scientific to technical approach. So from the development of new materials that allow for the creation of these electrochromic and thermochromic materials from low-cost techniques. And then I will present some concepts that we developed in terms of small prototypes that can also be integrated in retrofitting process of existing buildings, so in order to fit also the scope of this workshop. So I will talk, and I will not enter in big detail about, let's say, scientific issues, but I will talk a little bit about the design and the production of nanomaterials that are used to improve the, let's say, the characteristics of the electrochromic windows that can be then produced by a low-cost technique that is printed ones, so without require very expensive equipment, can be produced on flexible substrates that can be, for instance, used in existing windows. I will talk about this. I will also explain a little bit about what is very important for this kind of devices, that is the existence of electrolyte layer, let's say, in the system. That in our case, we are using solid electrolytes because they are safer than gel or liquid electrolytes. And then I will talk about the thermochromic materials that I have had also in this presentation, but I think is of interest for this. So just to start, so we work a lot in nanoparticle-based materials because nanoparticle are of special interest for electrochemical devices. They can be used in different kind of devices for energy storage, so we can reach ice charge capacity because we increase basically the surface area that you have available. Can be used in solar cells, can be used in electronics, can be used in sensors, and of course can be used in electrochromic devices that is very similar. The device is very similar to a battery. So I will focus basically on this. So if you want to go for making these materials by very cheap techniques, so like printing ones, of course we need to synthesize the nanoparticles, the nanomaterials. We need to formulate, let's say, what we call the ink, then to deposit the material. If we have a precise control of the process in order to have what we want, and of course then test it as electrochromic. Without going into much detail, so just to say that if you think on nanoparticles, so nanomaterials, small particles with nanometric dimension, they start to grow and become spherical until a certain, let's say, dimension. After a certain dimension, when you grow these particles, some of them tend to, let's say, start to grow preferentially in one direction. Is really where the regime we can get maximum reactivity, and I will show you why. And after some time, they start to aggregate to each other, so we start to reduce the surface volume that you have, the surface area that you have available. So you have the properties deterioration. I will start here, where they start to get, let's say, bigger in one dimension. And if you consider this, you can have what we call a nanorod particle, or a nanoplate particle, or even a nanocube. So a nanocube is what we call, we have, let's say, the three dimensions are the same size, and then 1D particles, one dimension bigger than the other two, and 2D materials that are basically one dimension that is very small compared to big. And we can define, let's say, this kind of ratio that is the length of the major axis over the length of the minor axis. If you consider, for instance, nanoplates and nanorods, we see that then if you go to consider also the surface available, considering the volume of the particle, the nanoplates or the 2D materials are the most, let's say, interesting materials because they present a very high surface area over volume. So that's why it's nowadays a hot topic to create 2D materials for energy storage. But nanorods are also interesting, and they are of particular interest when they start to aggregate. It's very typical to happen this when you try to create your own particles, so at lab scale. They start to aggregate to form these kind of shapes. And you see, for instance, 2D plates start to aggregate, you become close to a cube. That is the less, let's say, the less advantage particle if you consider the volume over the surface area over volume ratio. So in this regime where you start to have aggregation, it's important to see how this ratio of area available over the volume of the particle, okay, how this increases with the number of agglomerated nanoparticles. And we see that nanoplates are very nice if you have isolated particles, but as soon as you start to have some aggregation, this ratio decreases a lot. So those that still keep the highest ratio, even under agglomeration, are the nanorods. So indeed, these are the most suitable particles to be designed because, as you always have this kind of aggregation, okay, we can still have this surface area ratio very high. So that's what we did in the lab. So we go for the lab and we try to synthesize the particles using a technique that is called hydrothermal synthesis. Basically, you put inside a kind of autoclave, you put the precursor for the material that you want to create. You heat, you create a lot of pressure inside, high temperature, and you start to precipitate these particles that start to grow in these directions. So what you have is, depending on the processing conditions, we can tune conditions to get these kind of particles we want, so these kind of rods. So this is what we do in the lab, and we end up with tungsten oxide, so it's the case study here. Tungsten oxide is the most used material for electrochromic windows. Tungsten oxide with the orthorhombic crystalline phase. That happens also to retain some water, coordinated water inside. This is very important, I will explain later. I mentioned that we need also to print this, so we also need to take into consideration that the maximum dimension of these particles needs to be controlled in order to pass the nozzle of the printer that will be used then to spray the particles on the substrate. So we also need to consider this. We stay below a certain value. For instance, in this case, below 180 nanometers to be compatible with the system that we have. So, remember the picture I showed before. So these are the nanorods, are those that keep the surface area over volume ratio still high, and we manage to obtain this kind of particles. I also said that this water that is inside the particles is important because, as for any electrochemical system, you need to have also some electrical conduction on these materials. So they should not be electrical insulating. Otherwise, let's say, as they will receive ions and need to compensate this with also electrons, if they are not conductive enough, this will affect the performance of the device. So this happens that when you have this kind of particles, water coordinated inside, they have the lowest impedance, so they have the highest conductivity. So this also is very good to be used as an electrochemical system. So let's go and make these windows. Electrochromic windows was already mentioned in the previous talk, so it can be used for smart windows to control not only the lighting, because it will darken, say it will become blue in case of tungsten oxide. So you can control the light that comes inside, but also controls when it changes from transparent to blue, also not only the visible light, but infrared light that goes inside. So you can also control heating of the building, okay, by the radiation of the sun using this kind of system. So not only for aesthetic purpose, but also for energy efficiency purposes. And they are very well, let's say, known for windows in buildings, but you can also think of, let's say, more fancy applications. And this is just some drawings, of course, but in shops or even for recreation in kids' rooms, okay. But the concept is very similar to a battery, as I already mentioned. So you have basically two substrates that can be a rigid or flexible substrate. Then you have a TCO that is basically a transparent conductor oxide. It's an oxide that is good electron conductor, but it's transparent. Okay. It's very important to be transparent, of course, in order to allow the light to enter, in case you want light to enter. Then you have the working electrode, so it's the electrochromic material here. Okay, that in our case is the tungsten oxide. And you have a counter-electrode that should be, in principle, optical inactive, or at least complementary to the working electrode. But let's consider that as the simplest case, it's optical inactive, so it will store ions that, when you apply a voltage, they will move through the electrolyte to the working electrode. So the ions will go inside the tungsten oxide, and the tungsten oxide will, let's say, be reduced, will become blue. And in this, let's say, reaction, you need also to supply electrons to the tungsten oxide. That's why I said this is good to be also conductive, or at least more or less electron conductive, because the electrons needs to reach, let's say, this interface with the electrolyte to start, let's say, the process of the reduction of the tungsten oxide. So it's basically the configuration. It's very similar to a battery. It is a bad battery. This kind of configuration. Also consider now the energy efficient concept. So if you look for a house, insulated house, you have these, let's say, thermal losses. Consider that this. You see that to the door, because it's also a small area of building, you have basically 10%, to the windows 20%, to the walls 30%, to the loft 25%, and to the floor 50%. So basically, it's where the house is losing heat. And, or of course, can take it inside. So this is basically a rough summation of where you can, let's say, act when you put electrochromic windows. So we are dealing with this 20% here that, let's say, is transferred through the windows. I will talk later about the loft. So I already showed, as also was shown in the previous talk, that this kind of application, so control from a transparent to a blue state. We have some applications in windows. This is the case. Also in the roofs of some fancy cars, Pereira. This is Pereira in California that use this kind of roof that change color. Very expensive. In the first class, in some Airbus airplanes and Boeing airplanes, you also have this kind of concept that you can control the luminosity through the window, so you don't have the blanket. You have this electrochromic window and controlling the light. And some of the technologies used also in the rear mirrors also use these electrochromic materials. You can make also some small, let's say, display elements. It's not the topic of the talk, but you can also make these small segment displays using this kind of material that I will move. Because if you want to produce smart windows, normally these are the techniques used. So this is vacuum systems, PVD deposition systems. So basically, it involves vacuum big systems, vacuum very expensive machines. And you put the glass here, it passes through several, let's say, stages where you receive the different materials, and at the end you have a window. Then you need to put electrolyte in between. Normally it's a gel, or it can be solid as well. But if it is solid, you need to take into account that the ionic conductivity is normally low, so it takes more time to change color, or more power if you want to get the same coloration. So it's also, all these important to take into account. But this is very expensive techniques. If you go for vacuum techniques, very, very, very expensive. And you also need to consider that, okay, retrofitting of the existing buildings is a very important point. Because with this you can produce new windows, and you go there, even if you plan to retrofit a building, you replace the old windows and you put a new one. Okay? But this is very costly. Why not taking the existing windows and just put the electrochromic material on the existing windows without replacing those that already exist? So the idea is to put electrochromic foil on the existing windows, and this will be great because if it reach the residential market, you can see here that buildings, the energy consumption in buildings in Europe represents a big part of all the energy consumed in Europe. So it's 40% for the buildings. So if you do something on this, on the existing windows, we can make a small contribution. And remember that windows is basically 20% of energy is exchanged with the exterior. So what we want to do, move from this to creating electrochromic windows in plastic substrates. This is just a concept of, let's say, something that was thought in the past to be created, of having some plastic foil where you put the electrochromic window, you have the other plastic foil to close the window, and you create some foils that can be used then in existing windows. So you don't need to replace, you just go there and install the new electrochromic foil on top of the existing windows. So I told you that to do that, so it's good, it's good to avoid these expensive techniques and maybe move to spray coating techniques like similar to painting. Okay, so it's similar to inkjet printing, and this is what we are developing at large scale. So you can create these tungsten oxide layers that can be both amorphous or can have what we call this chocolate with nuts-like structure that is basically a dual phase. So you have amorphous matrix, okay, where you have some small crystals of tungsten oxide there. So you have a mixture of amorphous materials with crystalline material, but all are of tungsten oxide. I will explain later the advantage of using this. So how do we make it? So we prepare the nanoparticles. I already told you. Okay. We prepare the particles, synthesize the particles as I showed before, and you disperse them, put them in water or alcohol, and just have a solution that you can spray with the particles. We take the same kind of source we use to create the particles, and we make also a printable tungsten oxide ink. Okay, that if you print directly this ink, this will result in amorphous phase. Okay, it will not result in particles. Because here we have first to synthesize the particles and then to put them in water to be sprayed. We can also use the same source and create also an ink that can be printable, resulting in a amorphous phase. And you can combine both there. You can combine the particles, so you spray the particles and then you spray the amorphous phase. And you create what we call a dual phase layer. So we have a mixture of amorphous and crystalline. And this is the resulting film. Let's see an image of the resulting film. This is the skin of the resulting film. So this is the flexible foil with the transparent contact already there. You have the nanoparticles that were first sprayed on the substrate, and then you coat the particles in order to have them fixed to the substrate with a layer that is amorphous. But both are based on tungsten oxide. So this is the electrochromic. So this is what we call a dual layer or dual phase layer. And why this is important, this structure? So I mentioned before, when the reaction starts, the ions come from the country electrode and enter the tungsten oxide. So this is the reaction that promotes the reduction of tungsten oxide and the change in color. But to keep also the charge neutrality and to assist this reaction, you need to inject electrons from the other side. Okay? So the electrons need to travel to the electrochromic layer and reach the site where the ions are coming in. Okay? So it's good that these paths for the electrons, it's easy to do. Okay? So if these particles are more conductive, they can reach easily all the regions, okay, where the ions are coming in. So that's why I told you that these particles are important also to be conductive, and as I showed you also before, that it happens also that these nanorods are the most conductive particles, or most conductive form of tungsten oxide nanoparticles. So this way we achieve better electronic conductivity to improve the efficiency or the coloration efficiency of these electrochromic windows. And what we have made is just a simple test to look for the optical density for the same voltage. And what is the optical density? Is the change in the transmission of light at a certain wavelength in the what we call a transparent or bleached state and color state. So you make the difference, and you see for the same voltage, what gives the best performance is this dual layer of amorphous coating these nanorod particles. So it's for the same voltage where we get the highest modulation between the transparent and the color state. So indeed, if we compare with just amorphous or with the dual phases layers, but with the other particles, we see that this is better. So indeed, we have achieved what was initially predicted by our, let's say, modeling of designing nanoparticles. This is also a very important point, is the site saturation. So this is basically related with the reversibility of these windows. So this is also, let's say, the lowest, the site saturation, so that means that the reversibility is also better for this mixture, dual layer mixture. So without compromising too much the switching time, because here it also has to do with the total area available if you compare, for instance, with an amorphous layer that is the fastest switching time. But nevertheless, most important point is for the same voltage you can improve the optical density. So to create these on foils, I also said that it's important to have in between a solid electrolyte, so you need electrolyte. If it is solid, it's better. Of course, you lose in terms of ionic conductivity if you compare with liquids or gels, but in terms of safety, it's much better. So we have developed also some electrolytes based on thermosetting resins, where we mix some lithium ion salt, and we mix also what we call plastic crystal, that is basically a molecule that is inside the matrix, but is a molecule that changes conformation, let's say, very fast at room temperature. So it allows this change of conformation, allows the ions, helps the movement of the ions inside the electrolyte, even in the solid state. This can also be printed, or it can be made on membranes like this by mold casting. Just to show the, let's say, the ionic conductivity that can be reached on this thermosetting, let's say, polymer. Of course, it's much lower than gel electrolytes or liquid electrolytes. And we also need to consider that if you put, let's say, too much of this plastic crystal, or this molecule, I told you before, it starts to it improves slightly the ionic conductivity, but you start to have not a solid electrolyte, but more like a gel as well. So we want to stay more or less here, where it is still solid, and we get the best compromise between, let's say, the mechanical properties and the ionic conductivity. Is basically what is mentioned here. So it's in this region, if you compare the mechanical properties of the membrane with the ionic conductivity. Okay, better mechanical properties. It means less molecules of plastic crystal, but of course in terms of ionic conductivity. So somewhere here is the best condition to formulate our electrolytes. Just one, let's say, slide to talk that we can also recycle these electrolytes, so we can, let's say, make some mill it, okay, grind it, wash it to remove the lithium salt, and then separate the solid phase from the polymeric matrix. It can be used for other proposals, and we recover the lithium salt that can be, say, disposed in another way, or just give it as we wish. So the things that we are talking about are this. So to create electrochromic cells, so transparent state, color state in plastic foil, we can make this electrolyte transparent or opaque. Of course, for windows, the most interesting ones are these transparent ones. But for instance, for displays, if you want to use this for displaying the information, it's better to have a good contrast. So you want, for instance, a white electrolyte that gives better contrast. And create this kind of foil, okay, that if you put in the window, you can, okay, apply and have this kind of effect. Remember that here, if you look, you have lots of bubbles because the separation between both foils it's not easy to be stable, and you need to put some spacers as you have here. But this does not assure that if you look carefully, you have some bubbles, and okay, it's something that needs really to be optimized if you want to explore this as an industrial application. So I will now change to thermochromic materials. So this is something of relevance also recently, and we have been studying it. It has been applied a lot in windows also, in order to avoid the infrared radiation to come in the building. Basically, you can see here what is the, let's say, the constitution of a smart window based on thermochromic materials. You have the glass. You may have here a low emissivity layer, and you have the thermochromic layer, normally based on vanadium oxide. And what is the thermochromic? So thermochromic should be something that changes color with temperature. Okay? In this case, this layer is not exactly changing color because in the visible range you cannot notice a big change in the coloration. It's grayish, so it's not indeed very attractive to put in a window because you get, say, a dark window that does not change color. Okay? But what happens is at a certain above a certain temperature, okay, it starts to change the reflectivity in the infrared, and only in infrared. So you don't notice in the visible range, but in infrared you have a big change in the reflectivity above a certain temperature. It's called the transition temperature. It's where this material, VO2, changes from semiconductor state to metallic state. So it becomes highly reflective in the infrared. Okay? So you don't notice, but after a certain temperature, if the temperature outside increases above a certain value, the window starts to reflect the infrared and do not allow the infrared to come in the room. Okay? It's something that you don't control, because in the case of the electrochromic windows, you can control. Okay? You can switch whenever you want. Okay? Here, it's basically determined by the outside temperature. Okay? You'll change this transition will be controlled by the outside temperature. And you can see some applications of these thermochromic materials. In this case, it's in the visible range. Okay, it's for cans or bottles of cold refreshments or cold or beer. That when it's cold, it's blue. When it's not cold, let's say you don't notice that. But in this case, it's not. That's peroxide. It's a different material. Sometimes some polymers. This is also a concept for public bathrooms. Okay, also made I think it's of polymers. Also to control the food temperature in packaging. Okay, but all these concepts here are not made of vanadium oxide, because as I told you, vanadium oxide it has this grayish color, so it's not very attractive for those applications. Vanadium oxide is indeed a very interesting material, also for energy storage, especially in the form of V2O5. And in all, let's say, this kind of oxidation states, you have some kind of phase transition, okay? And the temperature at which this phase transition occurs differs from phase to phase. And the most interesting phase is this one, VO2, where this phase transition happens at 68 degrees. Okay? It's the most close, let's say, to our room temperature. Still very high, but it's the closest one to room temperature. It happens from changing from monoclinic to tetragonal arrangement of the atoms, so just the way of the atoms are arranged. And this means that, or this will force the change from semiconductor behavior to metal behavior. So from non-reflective in the infrared to reflective in the infrared. So the conductivity changed more than 5 orders of magnitude. It's very interesting material also for application in electronics. But let's focus now in smart building. And let's focus now on this temperature because it's too high. Okay. So you can decrease this temperature. So what we need to control on V2O5? So we need to control the transition temperature. It's called the TC temperature, 68 degrees, too high. Okay. The coloration of the layer is grayish, as I told you, so you cannot do much about that. Okay. This thesis is important. So it's the window that you have in cooling and in heating and cooling cycle. So imagine that it will change phase at 68 in cooling, in heating, but when cooling down it will change, for instance, at a different temperature that is 10 degrees different. Okay? This can create also some issues. So how you can control this? You can dope. You can control the transition temperature by doping, introducing some dopants in the V2O5. You can control psoriasis hysteresis and also to adjust slightly the transition temperature by changing the morphology or the size of the particles. Of course, the coloration you can control by changing the thickness of the materials. Okay. So these are some examples of some particles that we can obtain of V2O5, some different shapes, okay, that you can obtain depending on the way you process them. You make the reaction to obtain these particles. So in our case, we go from endothermal synthesis, so to create pressure and temperature inside the autoclave. You start from V2O5, okay, oxalic acid, and in this reaction inside the autoclave you get the V2O5 nanoparticles in suspension, and you get some subproducts of the reaction. Okay? But if you take this power after the reaction, they have no thermochromic properties, okay? Because they are still in a, let's say, metastable monoclinic phase. It's not yet the final let's say, crystallographic phase that you must have in order to have thermochromic properties. To do that, you need to make a thermal treatment, okay, at high temperature to stabilize this monoclinic phase. But you need to be careful because if you make this in an oxidizing atmosphere, you will transform the VO2 in V2O5. Okay, so So, and you lose the transition temperature at 68 degrees. 68 degrees. Okay. So this needs to be very well controlled in order to get the stable phase, but with, let's say, it's keeping the V2O5 intact in order to get the thermochromic problem. And so, what is our approach there? So, this is already used in Windows. We are thinking now on the loft. So, that's for the tiles that use on the loft of the buildings. And this is of particular interest in countries like Portugal, the south of Italy, Greece, or North Africa countries, where you have big exposition to sunlight and where these tiles are used, okay? Ceramic tiles. Okay? And if you can control, let's say, the infrared radiation that enters through the loft, okay, you can contribute to the reduction of the heating of the building. So, it's very easy in the summer, the roof to reach 60 degrees under direct exposure to the sunlight. But if you reduce this temperature, the critical transition temperature, even better. Okay? I already told you that by doping we can do that. And if you dope vanadium oxide with tungsten oxide, make a mixture, you put slightly amount, 3% in volume of vanadium oxide, you can reduce this temperature from 68 to 40 to 42 degrees. So, and it's very easy to achieve in a sunny day during the summer. Okay? So you can get this effect during this, the summer. That is basically the main purpose of this. So the idea is that in winter you don't reach these temperatures, okay, and the infrared radiation can pass through. In summer you can block part of this infrared radiation that is coming through the tiles. And this is very easy also to apply because this is a piece of the tile, and this is the tile as it looks after the coating. So it's, as I told you, it doesn't indeed here look black, but it's grayish. Okay, if you have a real tile on your end, it's grayish. It's applied by coating, so spray coating. It can be used, for instance, also you can go there with a tank on the back and go and paint the tiles. Okay, so it's also usable for retrofitting of existing buildings. Of course, it can be also used during the manufacture of new tiles. Okay? There are two issues here, very important points. Okay? The tiles are exposed to very aggressive environment because they're exposed to wind, rain. So the particles need to be there somehow. Okay? You cannot allow the particles to be washed out after a rainy day or something like that. Okay? How we solve this problem, partially this problem? So if you look for the thermal, let's say, make a thermal analysis of these of V2O5 in this case, you see that V2O5 has a melting point at around 700 degrees. So if you look to the phase diagram, you see that it melts around this temperature. So for V2O5, okay, you have this. For VO2, you also have something very similar, and you can take profit of it because if you heat during that heat treatment that I told you, you apply over the tile and you make heat treatment in the reducing atmosphere. So what happens is that the particles partially mix, so you create this kind of liquid phase between vanadium oxide and also the quartz that is there. Quartz that is the SiO2 that is on the glass layer on the tile. They partially melt and mix with the tile glassy cover. So they get attached to the tile during this heat treatment. Okay? So this heat treatment promotes the adhesion and also allows them to stabilize the monoclinic phase and VO2. Okay? And this is how the particles look like on top of the tile. If you have tungsten oxide, 3%, as I already told you, to decrease the critical temperature, or if you don't have any tungsten oxide. But the most important is that in this case they stay there. Okay. And if you make then after this treatment, if you make the temperature analysis, you start to heat up your tile, you see that you have now the transition. This should be the X-ray diffraction pattern, but just to say that this is the reflection, so the maximum of the reflection for one crystallite structure, monoclinic, and you see that around 45 degrees, the reflection changed for a different angle, so it means that you have modification on the crystalline structure. So you have now the tetrahedral structure, that is the thermochromic effect. So you have the space change at 45 degrees as we expected for the total tungsten oxide. And here is the, let's say, also a thermal camera image. Okay. When you have the hot plate, if you spot here the camera measures 75 degrees. You have here the uncoated tile, you have the coated tile. So if you put on top of the uncoated tile and spot the camera here, you measure temperature around 70 degrees. So the tile is transmitting all the heat from the hot plate. If you put the here on top of the coated tile, you spot it and you measure 59 degrees. So it's blocking the heat coming from the hot plate to come out from the tile. So it's reflecting the infrared radiation back to the opposite side. So this is the following the temperature difference between the coated and uncoated, coated and uncoated tile. And you see that really they start to differ next to the transition temperature of 45 degrees. So you see that the temperature that you measure on top of the coated tile starts to become always lower than the uncoated tile. So that follows basically the temperature of the hot plate in a linear relation, where here you have also the linear relation, but you have the shift that happens due to the transformation from the non-reflective to infrared reflective. Okay? So you have less temperature measured on top of the tile. And here is the comparison of the uncoated tile, black line, with the coated tile, okay, reflectance, at environment temperature, and the coated tile at 45 degrees. This is reality. So you see the big difference in reflectance. That is, the maximum is achieved when it's doped with 3% of tungsten oxide. From the uncoated tile to the coated tile above the critical temperature. So you can be something like 40% in reflectance in the near infrared region. Okay. So this is really nice result for this time. If you consider the area under the curve, so considering all the wavelengths, the change in reflectance for all the wavelengths, you see that the maximum between the hot tile, so this is the coated tile above the critical temperature, and the tile without any coating, can be the area, the total area under the curve can be 2 times higher for the coated tile. Okay? So this really proves that it can contribute to reduce the transmission of infrared radiation through the tile. I will just finalize by saying something about the stability of this. So I already said that we can solve this problem of adhesion. We have still the problem of stability, because when you expose vanadium oxide VO2 to the environment, it starts to oxidize and will change after some time to V2O5. Okay. So what is here missing is kind of protective layer over the coating in order to avoid the direct exposure of V2O5 to environment. Otherwise, it will transform after some time in a V2O5 and we will lose the thermochromic property. So we lose the effect that we want. This is something that needs to be addressed, so, and sometimes most of the time is addressed with the polymeric coating on top of the thermochromic. So, to finalize, just to say that size, shape, nanoparticles can control electrochemical, the role in electrochemical applications. In this case, I've shown the improvement of the electrochromic properties by proper design of the size and shape of the particles. We could print this by sheet techniques, create electrochromic foils with improved properties using the dual phase layer, and then we optimize also VO2 particles. Can be spray coated in the tiles, and you can, let's say, get about 40% in near infrared modulation in ceramic tiles that can be used in the roof of buildings. Okay, so this is some of the projects that have financed this research, and again, I want to take the opportunity to be here, present, and to talk for all of you about these results. So thank you.